I created this Trinity Bible study for one of my closest Jehovah Witness friends. As a fundamental Baptist myself, my Jehovah Witness friends kept telling me that we as Baptists got most of our Trinity verses out of the New Testament, and that the Old Testament doesn't teach Trinity at all. So with that in mind, let's find out if the Bible teaches Trinity by comparing both the Old and the New Testament Bible scriptures.
The Father is the horn of salvation. Now, I don't think we've ever gotten this deep into the Bible. I've never gone this far with you in the Bible, but there's so many different things that are related to Jesus Christ that the Father had already told us about himself in the Old Testament. And if we are finding out these truths now, comparing the Old Testament to the New Testament, because as you know, most people are really probably 90% more understanding the New Testament than the Old Testament, in the ways of Jesus. This really personifies why Jesus Christ has to be God, and it has to come from the Old Testament to be a truth. So when we really dig into it and we see these different things of what God is called and what Christ is called, it's way beyond coincidental. Okay, there has to be some truth to this. So we see the Father is the horn of salvation. We read in 2 Samuel 22:3, "The God of my rock, in him will I trust. He is my shield and the horn of my salvation." And of course, just the word salvation, my high tower and my refuge, my Savior, thou savest me from violence. And we know Jesus Christ as also being our Savior. So the Father himself is called the horn of my salvation. The Son is the horn of salvation in Luke 1:69, and hath raised up an horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David. Now, you don't think that the Old Testament Pharisees did not know this? Of course they did. They knew that God was called I Am. They knew he was the I Am He. They knew that he was the horn of salvation. They knew all these different attributes about them. So when he came out and said, I am, or when he came out and said, okay, I'm a horn of salvation, of course, they wouldn't believe it, because they knew that meant that he was God in the flesh. And even one of the verses said, we're not stoning you for good work, because thou, being a mere man, claimest to be God. I mean, that you can't get clearer than that. They knew from the Old Testament they were expecting the Messiah or the Son of God to be God in the flesh. When Jesus came, he didn't fit their thought of God coming in the flesh like Jesus did, so they wanted to kill him. And ultimately they did. That was the whole reason, because they understood the Trinity, okay, in their limited way, because they didn't have the New Testament to compare. Okay, but definitely the disciples did, because they're over and over, they're quoting Old Testament comparisons. Okay, horn of salvation, horn of salvation. Jesus and the Father, the same one.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to watch the next video explaining the examples of the Old and New Testament Trinity verses.